Guys, what is up? Jeff here for One Fish, Two Fish. Today we are going to give you guys an update video from a video we did about 2 weeks ago when we had a minor meltdown at the shop for some cloudy water everywhere. If you guys will remember, just on maybe an 8-hour kick on a Friday night, we left the store, we closed at 8 o'clock. We did a bunch of water changes through that day. We had some extra staff in that day, so we kind of attacked a couple extra things we wouldn't normally do. And we did about 50% water changes to the entire store. We did water changes to 50% of the entire store. We came in on Saturday morning, and that is the video I showed you guys last time. It was a wreck. Now, thankfully, it wasn't an animal, it wasn't a sickness, it wasn't a death wreck. It was just a wreck of the water. Our coral tanks, our entire quarantine system, everything that had fish in it, which was odd. Our live rock bin, which only has live rock in it and some media. Our 1,350 gallon tank wasn't so bad because it's super it's got a ton of media and stuff that goes through it, but it was a little cloudy. Our saltwater system was cloudy, but the weird thing was it was next to a bunch of tanks that had nothing. So if you guys will remember, these were the worst tanks that we had for sure. And as you can see, very quickly, we were very thankful. So this video is being posted a couple weeks after we did the video that showed this. Thankfully, this did not take a couple weeks. This video is actually being shot between 24 and 48 hours after whatever happened. As you remember, guys, the plant tank didn't get touched, but the coral tanks, for the most part, were what got beat up. But as you can see, they are still a little bit cloudy, but over the course of one night. You'll also notice that there is not a lot of coral in these tanks. We are waiting on a couple of very big orders that kind of keep getting bumped and are messing with us a tiny bit, but you can see basically for this, I'm just showing you the water quality, and then if you remember, these tanks were just horrible. You couldn't even see the back of them. Now keep in mind, it's dark in here right now. The lights are not on yet, they're all on timers, and today being Sunday, they just come on a little bit later in the day. But you can at least tell going through it that they have cleared up a ton. If you could remember, one of the ways we showed you was looking through the quarantine tanks, and when we did it, you couldn't even see to the third tank. It was that bad. So it has, like we said, cleared up a ton. It's not near as bad as it was. I would say these tanks, about 75% have come around, and that is, like I said, only in a very short period of time. So what we had done with these tanks were, for these, because this is on an entire kind of loop system, it's very easy for us to do water changes and stuff to these tanks. So what we actually did with those were, starting yesterday, we just ran full water changes throughout the entire day. We did, we probably spun that water around 2 separate times, just to make sure whatever the issue was, we would flush it out, sort of in hopes that we weren't going to continue to put more bad water in. What we read seemed like what they had done was only it was a one-shot thing, so we had hoped that it was just the one day we were going to be affected by it, and it seems like it was, just based on everything being, much better in a very short period of time. So we did different things with different systems. For the quarantine system, what we did with that was we just pumped new good water into it, to the point of actually we kind of ran out of hot water near the end of the day, so we had to actually do a little bit less than we were going to do. But we did flip those tanks over 2 or 3 times, which again is not super recommended to do to your tank. You do have to make sure anytime you're doing that you keep your media very good. So when we were doing it as safely sort of as we could. Again, it's not something we recommend doing, but all the fish look fine. We monitored them through it the whole day, and nothing really got beat up in the tanks, and the fish really didn't lose a beat. Same with the coral. None of the coral, you could see through it all. None of the coral looked bad. The torches were still out. The zoas were still out. Everything looked the way it was supposed to look. So that was one of the reasons we didn't super panic, that we just assumed it was something hopefully minor in the water, and that in the next little bit it would kind of fix itself a little bit, which is what it did. For the coral tank, what we did was we dumped a bunch of carbon in the tank. Carbon is actually used a ton in the hobby for a lot of the wrong reasons. It's not going to hurt your tank using it, but I find carbon is used in a lot of spots where it's really not doing much. One thing carbon is very good for is taking stuff out of water, which is what we did in the coral tank. Now, we dumped a bunch of it in. We dumped, like if you were buying it, we dumped around $50 worth of carbon in our coral tank, just because of where it was. It wasn't going to absorb the full kind of dose of the water super fast. So we put it where we could put it to try to get as much out of it as we could. So, like I said, we're not even exactly sure if the water changes helped more, if the carbon helped. But I did want to show you guys. Now, again, you got to bear with because most of the lights are not on, and I've got actually staff breaking stuff over there, and they're trying to fix it, or they're at least pretending to try to fix it. But from top up, you can see the water is much more clear than it was. And even this tank, if you guys remember, and again, this is just our live rock bin. This is 100% cleaner. Again, it's only a smaller body of water, and it is, the water gets spun around in this, kind of super filtered. So we were sort of expecting this one to be one of the ones to clean up first, and it has basically cleaned itself up completely. And then, of course, the 1350, again, it is dark, but you can see the fish much better than you could yesterday. I know you guys like the stingrays. Certainly one of my favorite animals. Love these guys. These guys are starting to get big. You're going to see some changes to this tank in the very near future. We're going to... we'll keep that for another video. You are going to see some very big changes in this tank in the very near future. There is a handful. This tank kind of got sucked into any big fish that came in. We just wanted to give them a home. The Oscars. And the Oscars are beautiful fish. And the Oscars are going to be the trickiest one, because they're going to be, if we decide to rehome them, they're going to be very tricky to rehome, because to give those to even a 100-gallon tank right now after they've lived in here will just be very hard for us. We're going to have to figure out how to get them into a monster tank. We do have a couple customers that have really big ponds, like indoor ponds. So we'll see if we can do something with one of them to make sure we get those guys nice homes. So anyway, folks, I just wanted to give you guys a little update. Like I said, in full disclosure, we still don't know exactly what happened. We don't know exactly what fixed it. We don't know if it was time. We don't know if it was water changes. We don't know if adding the carbon helped. But it was a relatively quick problem. We are fairly confident that it was the water that was coming into us, that just they added something to it. The one part of that doesn't fit is our RO system. Still, we would have thought cleaned it enough to get all that out. So to be honest, we're still a little bit out of shock for it. But I mean, the good news to it is, 24 to 48 hours later, it has mostly cleaned itself up, which is sort of what we were hoping for. As they say, better to be lucky than to be good. So, you know, that's what we wanted, was it to be clean, and it is now. So I suspect in the next day or so it should be fully gone, and us not even know that it sort of happened. So anyway, guys, thank you for checking in. Be sure to subscribe and like the video, and we'll see you in the next one.